Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page where I do this daily live stream all around the divination card or the oracle card that's drawn in the morning. And it gives us a place to start, right? About the energy flowing for the day that's important for us to know about. And it sparks a spiritual conversation. So, welcome. Today is Monday, October. Oh, my goodness. It is March 11th. And we have a beautiful day here in Tomah, Wisconsin, where I live. The sun is out, blue skies, and yeah, I like it when it's like that because the snow's all sparkly, and it's warm. It's warm. It's warmer than it's been in a long while, and our high today is supposed to be 33 degrees. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you say it like that, isn't it? That you're expecting like 50 degrees or 60 degrees, and no, it's 33. So before we get rolling down the road too far, I am going to like and share the live stream, and I invite you to do the same. And one of the reasons why we do this is so that others can find us a bit more easy in Facebook. And so it won't take but a moment. I'm going to like it, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it over to my news feed, and so that my friends know that I'm live streaming. And also, I'm going to ask them if they'd please join us. There we go. And then we'll post that. And I'm going to share it over to also to one of the closed groups. And oops. Okay, there we go. And we're going to do a group. And we're going to do the academy. And we're just going to let them know. And to please join us. There we go. That's done. Thanks for letting me pause to do that. Excellent. Yay. All right. Today's Monday. And I have to say, after the weekend of a lot of publishing stuff, because we just published the Star Nations magazine, the March issue, issue number 70. We published yesterday, and the weekend was really, really taken up by publishing. And yeah, and so today actually kind of feels more like Saturday for me than it does Monday. Because it's a much easier day, more laid back day. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's Julie. I was going to say, I have to figure out if this is Julie Hedges or if this is Stephanie Williams. Hello, Julie, because then she follows it up with, it's Julie. Hello, Julie. Thanks for letting me know who it is. He's going, Julie who? Rob. Yeah, one of your best friends, I bet. And thank you, Julie, for sharing and loving it. I appreciate it. And she's waving. What, the screen is dark? Really? I don't see that. Does everybody else have a dark screen? Oh no. I don't know. Pat, try refreshing your screen and see how that works, okay? And if it doesn't, let me know, and we'll try to help you some other way. Oh, thank you. It's coming across as red. It's actually kind of an orange red. An orange. It's actually more orange than red. Yeah. I guess you can tell I'm getting cabin fever. I'm starting to dress more in lighter colors because I can't wait for spring. Yeah. Thank you, though. Yeah. Yeah. Julie's saying, what about a refresh? Good. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. And Cindy, hey, Cindy Lynn. Hello, Cindy Lynn. Good. Thank you for letting me know about the screen. So, Pat, yeah, try refreshing your screen. If you don't know how to do that, up near the top, where that HTTPS is, there should be like a little arrow that kind of goes around. and just click on that and it'll refresh your screen. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, as I was saying, here in Toma, it's actually a very beautiful day. It's our high is supposed to be 33 degrees, and we had snow on Saturday. I think you can see us now. See me anyway. Let's see. I do want to take a little bit more time with the one card that we have today, because as I was looking at it and reminiscing a bit, taking a trip down memory lane, I thought I'd share a little bit more about the bird language. Okay, so I'm going to show you the picture that we have, and let's see. I also want to refresh my memory on how to pronounce it. All right. And so for those who might not know, this is the deck that we're using, Druid Animal Oracle by Stephanie and Philip Cargome. They're from the UK, and so is the illustrator. Bill Worthington is the illustrator, and all three of them are from the UK. So we're getting a very nice perspective of from the reference point of being from the UK, right? And this is a prime example of it, actually. This is the card that came this morning. It's the Wren. The Wren. And Gaelic, the Gaelic word for it is Drui-en. Drui-en. And I always wondered, I wonder if they roll their R's. I'm not sure. So would it be Drui-en? I don't know. Drui-en. I think I like it better with the roll. Drui-en. It sounds more lyrical. But the Wren, we everybody doesn't everybody have house wrens, in the summer and in the spring. And for here in Wisconsin, they're migratory. They don't stick around for the really cold winters. And as you can see, he's surrounded by greenery, and there's actually water in the background as well, I think. Yep, there's water in the background. And there's a nest full of eggs, and he's perched on a limb. And in this particular card, I noticed that the trees have leaves on them. And a lot of the cards, the trees don't have leaves. So it's like winter or fall. Yeah. So there's some water in the background, and the sky is kind of, I don't know, you can kind of see the setting sun or the rising sun at the horizon, and dark clouds, or maybe they're clouds just before sunrise or sunset, right? Yeah. And again, we only have one eye. And the fact that he has a feather, one of his own feathers in his mouth, or her mouth, I should say. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so in the background, that answers the question. It's storm clouds in the background. Do you see the lightning? The lightning in the background. Yeah. And it's interesting because closer to the horizon, where the hills are in the back, the mountains are in the background, you can kind of see the sunshine. And I don't know about you, but I certainly see faces in those mountains in the background. And there are the eggs. I see at least 4 of them. It looks like oak and ivy, doesn't it? The leaves, oak and ivy. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. All right. So Julie is saying that looks like a larger book than I have with my deck. I don't know. The deck was actually purchased in England. Because Mervyn gave me the deck as a gift, and I think he got it directly from the author because the author is one of his mentors, and Philip actually signed the book. So did Stephanie. Wish I could read it. His penmanship isn't very good. But that's a druid writing right there. So I can just barely make out his signature. I can read Stephanie's, but I'm not sure exactly what he says there. It says, for Neshi, with my, or many, I don't know. But it's very nice. So, it's possible that the printings were different in one country compared to the other, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Oh, Bobby's here too. Hi, lovely lady. Nice to be here. Oh, it's good to have you back, Bobby. I hope things are going well and at home and that Randy is doing good. I know, right? I know. The illustrations in these cards are beautiful. So anyway, when we do this just about every day, right? And how we take in the information from the cards. And so when the card first came out of the deck this morning, when I picked it up, it came out vertical. It wasn't in reverse, it was vertical. And so I sat with it for a little bit, looking at the card, sensing, feeling, seeing the energy about the Wren and around the Wren, noticing his color. But the first thing that I noticed, the very first thing I noticed was the feather in his mouth, or her mouth, I should say. What was the first thing that you saw when you saw the cards? What drew you? What drew you in? Sensing it. I wish I could have said it was the eggs, but the eggs for me were kind of camouflaged. Yeah. And the fact that the Wren is sitting on a limb, on a branch of a tree, right? Telling us that the Wren is grounded to Grandmother Earth. Otherwise, she would have been in flight, right? Yeah. The Wren and showing only one eye. Yep. The Wren, and Wrens are not very big at all, are they? They're not very big. And so just to even see one, I know that it's easy for us here in the States to see house wrens, right? But there's so many different kinds of wrens. There's just not one kind. And if they're out in the wild, I could see them blending in really well with their habitat and being difficult to see. So these are the words that Philip has associated with the Wren, or Drui-en, or Drui-en, is humility, cunning, and God. And the word that they're using here for cunning, the meaning of it has more to do with your wit, right? And how you figure things out and how you like solve a puzzle or figure out how you're going to do something. the wit. Yeah, cunning. So humility, cunning, and God. Hey, Valerie's here too. Hello, Valerie. Good to have you here. Yeah, the card that came this morning is Wren. Drui-en is the Gaelic word for wren. And the words associated with the wren is humility, cunning, and God. Yeah. And Tanya has something to say. Tanya says, "Hi, Neshi." Hello, Tanya. She said, "The peace of the wren and the beautiful color of her against the blue sky, even though it's lightning, it feels calm to me." Well, that's good. The calmness is good. Yeah, that the color is a brownish red, wouldn't you say? And technically the wren is looking away from us. She's not looking straight on, and with that feather in her mouth. Yeah. And Julie is saying, "Yes, the feather is what I noticed. Wrens are crazy territorial and will build several nests for their mates." Really? They will dive bomb any perceived threat and build and rebuild nests if one is torn down. Wow. So they're territorial. It's good to know. And that the male, I'm assuming that you mean the male will build several nests for their mates. So they have more than one mate. More than one mate. I know swallows. Swallows are very territorial. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with a swallow, but holy smokes. You can't even get close to where their nests are, because they dive bomb you. They come right at you. Kamikazes. So the wren, the card shows a wren holding a feather in its beak as it guards its nest filled with eggs. Tradition calls the wren's nest the Druid's house. A bolt of lightning represents Tara Nis, the bull god of thunder and lightning, the oak tree, and the wren. The Oam sign in the stone is of Dur, the oak. All right, I missed the Oam. Oh, there it is. Okay, so over near the edge of the card is an Oam, and that is the ancient language of trees with the Druids, and it means the oak. The oak. I totally missed the Oam. All right, so the Drui-en allows us to glimpse the beauty of God or goddess in all things. The Wren tells us that small is beautiful and that self-realization lies not in grandiosity or apparent power, but in humility, gentleness, and subtlety. Cunning, if tempered with humor and good intent, is a way of achieving great things with the economy of effort and a rational and honest use of the achievements of others. Okay, so we could be looking at how we work with others, right? He says that achieving great things with the economy of effort and a rational and honest use of the achievement of others. The card drawn in reverse. This could mean that you need to look at whether your humility and gentleness actually render you invisible to others. I'm going to say that again because it might be a little important to a few people. It says that it could mean that you need to look at whether your humility and gentleness actually render you invisible to others. Are they your way of defending yourself from life and from others? Rather than facing life and its difficulties, perhaps you also need to look at how you use your cunning or your native wit. It's easy for out of habit of building. I'm sorry. It's easy for the habit of building on the work of others to become a dishonest exploitation of others' achievements, just as it's easy for cunning to be negative rather than positive. And when I first read that, I thought, that could be another way of saying rather passive aggressive, right? Or taking, if you're working with a team or working on a team, and you're working on a project and somebody comes up with a really good idea and it's working out really well. And it could be easy for someone to take the credit for someone else's work, right? And out there in the world, that does happen quite often, right? And it kind of calls into the balance of the ego and also speaking your truth, I think. So it's something the Wren, that if the card was drawn in reverse, is something that we can look at within ourselves, whether or not that we're using our wit to have a negative, which means that we're taking credit for someone else's work, or on the flip side of that is that maybe we're not speaking up for ourselves. Maybe it has to do with if we can do it in a gentle way and we can still be humble, but we don't necessarily have to have somebody take credit for the work that we've done. Right? Yeah. Philip goes on to say that cleverness and building on the work of others require wisdom and honest skill if they are to be of value. So especially when we're working within a team, I think, is that when somebody does or says something really good, is that, you give them credit for it and you say it out loud. You say it publicly, Rob, you did a great job. That was such a good idea. And look how well it's working out, and it saved us time or something, and that you're actually giving them credit for their wit and what they've done and how they've added to the team, right? The other way, the negative way would be to try to take some of that to make sure to have your ego pumped up a little bit, and so that your boss or your supervisor is going to notice you as well and not just Rob. All right, so Julie's saying he builds many nests for her to choose. Oh, he only has one mate. Oh, okay. So basically, he builds the nest and gives her the choice. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to raise our young? And Rob is saying, technically, it's not an alphabet as an opening sequence as A and B. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Rob says, The White Goddess by Robert Graves deals with the subject. Oh, thank you for that. That's a good resource. Thank you, Rob. And Julie is saying, I'm back, was kicked off. Oh, really? Well, I'm glad you're back. And Julie, Shumway Hill is here. Hello, Julie. I was just thinking, I wonder if Julie must be in a meeting. And Rob is saying, you can accomplish anything if you don't care who gets credit. Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's true. I have to agree with that. It's just that knowing two-leggeds, right? Knowing humans is that, and sometimes, remember, if we can look at it or bring it in an event or a situation, bring it in and say, oh, I get to learn how to do this, or I get to apply my gifts this way in my job. So, or maybe you might be working on your throat chakra, or maybe your solar plexus, your willpower. And so it gives you the opportunity to actually apply the techniques or the things that you've learned, to be able to apply the throat chakra or the solar plexus in a good way. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be dramatic or traumatic. If somebody is taking credit for your work, of course, I'm a triple fire. So you guys, take this the way that you can. Okay. Is for me, I would either have depending on who it is, I would have them, come with me to have a one-on-one kind of conversation, and let them know that it's not right. That that if they're trying to take some of my credit for it, it's like, we can share it. We're on a team. And give credit where credit is due, right? Depending on who they are. And sometimes it's done publicly, in a team meeting, and try to do it in the best way that I can from my heart rather than my egoic mind. And that's when we're using our throat chakra. That's when we're using our will center and or our heart too, because if we say it from our heart the best we can, chances are more people are going to be able to hear it. When we come from our ego, it's sometimes it's like drawing the sword, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness, Polly Joe's here too. Hello, Polly Joe. PJ's in the house. And Rob, every time you write that, doesn't matter what show you're in, it always brings a smile, at least to my face, and kind of chuckle about it. What do you know, Polly Joe? Actually, Polly Joe knows a great deal. She does. She's a well of information. Deep well. All right, so here's the card that came. The Wren, and the Gaelic word for Wren is Drui-en. And the words associated with Wren is humility, cunning, and God. And we were just talking about what the card means in reverse. Although we didn't get it in reverse, with these cards, I'm finding that adding the reverse information helps us to understand the essence of the card in a broader way, right? So that we can all take it in. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And Mervyn Kelly's here too. Hello, Mervyn. It's good to see you here. Yeah. Oh, you're not late. It's right on time. Always. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Polly Joe's, she says, me too. She was, if you guys are talking about being a little late. Julie says, I believe there's one with a booklet and one with a bigger book. The one with the larger book and cards looks like just like the book on Amazon, but it does include both. Oh, really? Mervyn, we were just talking about earlier, because I showed the book that comes with the cards, right? And Julie said that her book that because she bought the cards too, is that her book looks smaller. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, Mervyn got this from his mentor, from Philip. And I said, and maybe the book is printed, they're printed different in the UK than they are available here in the US. But it seems that Julie is saying is that there's one with a booklet and one with a bigger book. So there's two different kinds. That's good to know. Thank you, Julie, for doing that, letting us know. And Mervyn's saying, I'll tell the story of how Wren became the king of birds tomorrow. Yes, please. It's in the book. And I was going to mention just a little bit about it, but I wasn't going to tell the story. It was one of the things that Philip writes in here is that of all the birds revered by the Druids, the wren was considered the most sacred. And it goes along with the story that Mervyn is talking about. He also says, Philip also says, is that Druid as shaman is also the cunning man. The man who can become invisible like the wren, who can travel on the back of the noble eagle. He says that the druid's house is the wren's nest, a place of comfort and safety. For another important symbol in Druidry is the egg. Okay, so here, if you take a look at where the eggs are at, they're kind of camouflaged. He says that the idea that in order to grow and change, we need to go through the periods of incubation, withdrawing from the world to allow ourselves to reform in the womb of time. I kind of like that phrase, in the womb of time. So in other words, and we talk about that as integration, right? Is that when we've just maybe finished up a life lesson and we've come to the other side of it and we've recognized what the gift is, the wisdom piece of it. And sometimes we just have to be with it for a while. And in that integration time, when everything comes to almost to a so slow that it feels like it's stopped, almost like a plateau. And so it gives us that space to be able to sit with it for a while, to incubate it, to really bring it in and integrate it into our lives and into our bodies, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like the wren's egg. He goes on to say that the oak struck by lightning, you can see that in the background, is a symbol of the enlightened druid, the sage infused with the power of the Sky Father. The oak tree struck by lightning symbolizes the enlightened druid. All right. And then he also goes on to say that the wren's feather became a lucky charm to preserve sailors from drowning. And so having his own feather in his mouth, showing us that the offering of the protection or the luck, if you will. Now, the other day when we were talking about the meaning of death, right? And possibly in the cards that were written probably in the mid 90s, that they were talking about the actual physical death, right? And in today's vibration, we were talking about it and possibly not so much the physical death per se, but being able to move from one realm or one dimension to another, right? And so with this, I was thinking about the feather and it being a symbol of luck for sailors, not drowning, right? But if we kind of expand that a bit, perhaps we can actually look at that as, because how many times have we found feathers, right? Now, I don't know if I've ever actually found a wren feather, but if we take into account that maybe if we expand this a bit and we talk about the feather being a symbol of hope, maybe protection or safety, that sailors, they're protecting them from the water, from drowning. And so maybe it has something to do with when we turn to our emotions, when we're learning something about our emotions, whether it's the healing, or perhaps it's showing our emotions, or if you're an empath, bringing in the emotions of others and not being overwhelmed by them, not drowning in them. That's where my thoughts went about the feather. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Because I know that the ancientness of the meaning of the wren feather as a protection to sailors from drowning. Yeah, maybe. All right. Mervyn saying tomorrow's show is at 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central because you had the time change. Well, not necessarily, Mervyn. I was going to write you a note about this. We still say that it's 9 Eastern. The one that has to make the adjustment is on your end. So, for instance, if we start at 9 a.m., what time would that be for you? Or 10? Yeah, you're the one that has to make the adjustment on your end to make sure that you start on that time frame. Yeah, our adjustment was that, unfortunately, is resetting the clock. Yeah, don't get me started on that one. Paul and I had a long discussion about that last night. Again, twice a year we have this talk. Yeah, it's actually it's not. We're not changing the time frame on that. It's your adjustment on your end. That makes sense. We can talk about it after the show if you want. Okay. All right. And Rob is saying better to be in time than on time. In time rather than on time. That's so musical, I think. Coming from you in time, to be in time. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to share with you, and it's kind of funny because I had this discussion last night with Orchard and Carl. We were talking about light language. And Orchard had asked me a question if I had heard the term bird language. And I had heard the term called bird language. And it was years ago. It was years ago when I read the series, the Celestine Prophecy. And so I'm sure some of you have read that, right? The Celestine Prophecy. And in there, the character had to learn the bird language because he was going to South America, right? And so way back then, I kind of was looking at that and looking it up and trying to figure out what is the bird language, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll associate it with an indigenous people. Okay. And so the bird language is actually a light language. And the light languages can include indigenous languages. And because many of the indigenous languages were not written down, not until I would say in the last maybe 30 or 40 years, that many of them had come with their alphabet and trying to get the alphabet, let's put it that way, so that you could actually write it rather than just speaking it. And I know that we can't lump all of the indigenous people into that because some of them did have a written language. But the bird language and the indigenous language that wasn't written down, a lot of that had to do with symbolism in a way, symbols and sounds. Yeah, and sometimes music. They say that the bird language came from the Atlantean priests, and that when Atlantis fell, of course, you know how they took the information and they went to different continents, right? And that was part of what came. And some say that it was actually part of a star nation that brought that language. That it didn't happen here on Earth, that it was brought to Earth, okay? And that the indigenous people were given that language so that they could communicate with the star beings that came, the ancestors that came. So one of the things that when I was looking through my information from years and years ago. I have something here that it's from the crystallinks.com. Crystallinks.com. And they share that the language of the bird is also known as the green language, or the language of the gods. It embraces the Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, and the Tarot. It says that its grammar is symbolism, more to the point, holographic symbolism, than properly understood. In the Kabbalah, Renaissance magic, and alchemy, the language of the bird was considered a secret and perfect language, and that the key to perfect knowledge, sometimes also called the language or the green language, the langue verte. That's it. In the Talmud, Solomon's proverbial wisdom was due to his being granted understanding of the language of birds by God. And so, they even talk about the Celtic mythology, and that the birds usually represent prophetic knowledge or bloodshed, especially crows. Morgaine adopted the shape of a bird to warn the brown bull. And they're talking about one of the battles. So the bird language, in Egypt, they're called hieroglyphs, in the alphabet of the birds. In the ancient Egyptian itself, the hieroglyphic form of writing was given the name, the words of the god or divine language. And so, what we know today about light language is that we could actually say that the bird language was a light language, or is the light language, and that light language is an ancient way of communicating, that so many beings could use the same language and know what they were saying, right? And a long time ago, I was thinking it's kind of like sign language in a way. Native American Sign Language, west of the Mississippi, a lot of the tribal nations out there, they had a common sign language or hand language. And because there was such big expanses between, because they're out on the Great Plains, right, is that from a distance you could actually do large sign languages, like the one that this one, okay? And because of Hollywood, they used it as how, okay? Now, taking from the language, misinterpreting or using it more of a Hollywood kind of thing, it's kind of like a how, okay, not how. But that is like a greeting. It's like, hi, I see you. Do you see me? Because you can do that from a long distance, right? So the bird language is ancient, and it was brought to the two-leggeds here on Grandmother Earth by the star beings. It's called the light language. And all of that because of this little guy that came to visit today, the Wren. Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Thanks, Rob. That makes sense. Rob saying it was a seed. I couldn't understand it at the time. Oh, I see. Okay. And Julie is saying scientists say that bird songs that we think are beautiful are either "Stay out of here, buddy, my digs," or "Hey, baby, how you doing?" Yeah, well, they obviously have their own language. They obviously do, because all of nature does, right? Hi, Gina. Good to have you here. And Julie is saying Hermes, Thoth. Mercury have winged feet. Well, exactly. Communication, right? Communication. And so the light language is really kind of like a core language, so that many different beings could understand each other rather than just using their own language. And Rob is saying Mercury also moved the fastest of the Skywalkers. Yes, he did. Fleet feet, right? Fleet feet. And isn't it interesting? Here we sit with Mercury retrograde. Yeah, it's time to say that out loud again, right? I wrote it the other day in Polly Joe's show. Is that I accept all the gifts of the Mercury retrograde and release all that is less than a gift from Mercury retrograde. Yep, I needed that this weekend. All right. So the Wren. The Wren. The other thing that the Philip has to say about the Wren is that he says part of the work of Druidry today lies in going deeper than our Christian heritage to reclaim the beauty and the life that pre-Christian ancestors saw in nature in all of her creatures. Because part of the symbolism of Wren is wisdom and divinity. Is that the Wren reminds us that we can see so much more that's underneath. It says it's a metaphor for finding the elusive divinity within all life, so that we can see, sense, or feel the Creator, God, Goddess, in all things, and that's what this little Wren can bring to us today. And I wanted to kind of expand on that by adding in the bird language. And it's kind of funny, how synchronicities work, right? So it's happened in threes now. I had a conversation with a friend of mine from Alaska this past weekend, and she brought up light language and actually the bird language. And then I had a discussion with Carl and Ortrun last night, and Ortrun brings up light language and bird language. And these two people don't know each other at all. And then this morning we get Wren. And talking about the communication. We're talking about the cunning part, the wit part, right? And maybe it has to do with using our voice, our throat chakra sometimes, to be able to either stand up for ourselves or to actually say something to someone else who is doing a good job and has added so much to a project as within a team, and actually saying, rather than trying to take their the idea from them, is to actually congratulate them and thanking them for adding to the team, right? And so that led to the light language. Kind of a roundabout way, but it did. Yeah. Julie Shumway Hill is saying, I was born under a Mercury retrograde. You were? Huh. I never took a look at that. My astrologer happens to be in the chat. Julie Hedges is my astrologer. I'm going to have to ask her about that. I never asked if I was born under a Mercury retrograde. Doesn't feel like it, but I was just asking. I'm getting a no on it, but yeah. So Julie, did how did you come to that information? Did your astrologer show it to you? Did they do a regression of that? It's fascinating. I want to know, how'd you do that? And Julie Hedges says, my experience as an astrologer, people born under a Mercury retrograde have more clarity and aha knowledge during a retrograde. The opposite effect for those who are born when Mercury direct. Aha. Mercury retrograde is pretty regular, happens 4 times a year. Yeah. Yep. And the retrograde always kind of gets a bad reputation, but there's some good things that happens during a retrograde too. And Julie has done, I don't know, a couple of different shows on it. She's written about it in a magazine a few times. And I know that you also have native live streams where you talk about the retrogrades as well. So anybody who is looking for information about the retrograde, we can put some of those links in there for Julie's shows and native live streams. So. Oh, I like this one, Rob. May your Mercury be more Freddy and less retrograde. I know. Mr. Fahrenheit himself, right? Yeah. Paul and I are doing a binge on for Freddie Mercury because of the movie, right? Bohemian Rhapsody. Yep. All right. So, why do you suppose this Wren came up to us today? What's the most important information or energy that the Wren is bringing to us today to know about, to be helpful for us today? And when I asked myself that earlier, I had to come back to the humility part and the use of our wit. And that the use of our wit is something that we can actually do something about. Yeah. It's about choices. It's about choices in how we use our gifts, how we use our wit, our mind, so that when we make those choices that we're coming from our heart, or at least from our high heart, let's call it that, where we have the balance between our heart and our head, right? And that the Wren could actually even help us with that as empaths. And that's where I went with the feather in his mouth or her mouth, is that to be able to help us to take in a balanced way that information coming from other people through their emotions, so that we're not drowning in them, that we can take if it's meant for our highest good to have that information come through us, is to help us to discern that and to be of service where we can, and then to let it go so it doesn't take up residence. And that is my feelings about what Wren came to talk to us about today. Yeah. Julie's saying, I have not had an astrology reading, but I ran my natal chart online. Oh, okay. And there's a lot of good places online to do that, that's for sure. And Julie's saying, yes, the chart will show you what planets are in retrograde in natal horoscope. Perfect. Yeah. And I think that using the software or the online stuff is a good place to start, right? It's a good place to start to understand and bring information to you to deepen your understanding of yourself. It's a good place to start. The next step is to find an astrologer that you resonate with, so that they can take that information to a deeper level. So it's more personable. It's more about you as that soul, as that being here on earth. And that, to me, that's what an astrologer does. And they can help us to understand, especially when you're going through something like that dark night of the soul stuff. They can help you to see a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And so, yeah, I hope that the information about Wren and how she comes to us with humility, with wit, and God, to be able to see God, Goddess, the Creator in all things. Yeah. Yeah. Yay. And if you're interested in light language and that bird language, um, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can read. I think I'm looking at my books. I thought I had one. That could be downstairs. I think it is. About light language. I think it's downstairs. I'll see if I can find it and put the name of it and the author in the chat after we're done with the show. Okay. Yeah. Yay. So, anything and everything that we talked about here today, that we shared, if it resonated with you, my suggestion is to embrace it and see where or how the energy is unfolding around you today, and where this information could be helpful, whether you're a direct participant or if you're bearing witness to something. Both are important, and both ways we learn something from it. If it didn't resonate with you, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's all right. You're not going to hurt my feelings or anyone else's feelings if it didn't resonate with you. It's fine. There's always tomorrow and tomorrow's card that may have meaning for you. Okay. We have a very, very busy week coming for you. Lots of good stuff coming your way from Star Nations. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Mervyn Kelly kicks everything off for us for the week with his show From Star to Stone at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. He starts, and it's all about story and song, and how it was important for the ancients and how it's important for us today. And he's asking us to please bring our stories and songs with us, and we'll have a nice conversation around it. Okay, so we'll see you in the chat in the morning with Mervyn Kelly. And then at noon Eastern is Polly Joe's show, Chakra Sessions, and it's kind of a celebratory time, because Polly Joe is celebrating her 2-year anniversary here at Star Nations for her show. And March 14th marks her 2nd anniversary with us. And so she's doing a special show tomorrow. She's doing some giveaways. And of course, she's still bringing some very interesting and helpful information to us too. So that's noon Eastern Time for Polly Joe's show, Chakra Sessions. And then my weekly show comes up at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is Communications from Home. And we're going to be talking about the March issue. I've got some backstories for you guys that hopefully you're going to be going, oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. And some hints along the way of how to get through Mercury retrograde when you're a publisher. Yep. Hello, Georgie. Georgie just joined us. And then on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is Nature Adventures with Minnie Kansman and myself. And we're going to be sharing about the 5th element. Yes, the 5th element. It's going to be a good one. Hope you guys can join us. And then at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, is Soul Connections with Polly Jo LeBay. And that is all about healing and divine messages. It's a powerful evening. If you haven't experienced it, please join us and experience it for yourself. Yeah. And then on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is Life Wisdom with Ed Langdon. And Ed is, the title of his show is Creating Your Life. And he's talking about the law of attraction and how we use that to create the life that we want, but more importantly, understanding how we've gotten to where we are and how we deal with the past. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. And he's also doing some tapping so that we can release things from the past so that we're more in the present when we're doing our manifestations. Okay. And he's also doing some channeling work for us too. So if you have a life question or a question about creating your life, you can send him your questions ahead of time, and he will work with them with his channeling, his spiritual team, his helpers, many of the ascended masters, and then he'll answer your questions through the channeling during his show. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to remember to get that link in the comment section for you, so that you can ask your question. Julie wants to see Georgie. Well, Georgie's kind of laying underneath my chair. I don't know if we can. I'll move my camera very slowly so I don't get anybody with motion sickness. Oops. All right. Let's see if we can get Georgie in the camera here. And there's George. Let's see. We got to go. Oops, wrong direction. There we go. I don't think I have enough cable here. There's George. Let's see. Going down and then over. Oh, chair leg's in the way. I don't know what I'm doing here. There he is. There's George. He walked in and fell asleep. That's George. He's a big boy. He's a little over 60 pounds. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to try to get my camera back on here. With that, enjoy. Oh my goodness. Enjoy the rest of your day today on Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, for the daily live stream and the group card draw. Okay. Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.